remembering that the tips of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth, like is displayed on the screen, and that our arms do not rest on your ribs, but rather feel free to float. Are you feeling the front of your shins? Good morning! How are you? How art thou? Wherever you are, whenever thou art, whether you are joining us here live at 5:34 a.m. on Friday, October 15th, 2021. Or whether you are there in the future watching us in a VOD. How art thou? How are you doing? Are you ready to stretch our self-awareness like a muscle as we feel so good from the inside out, better than your morning would feel without? Good morning, everyone. It is another Freedom Friday. My name is Herbie. Good morning, everyone. This is Absolutely Pal Go On, where we will be using some body magic tricks today to feel so good in that body of yours from the inside out. Not really doing much, but just moving our self-awareness around and watching our body react to it. Speaking of self-awareness, how are you doing today in this virtual reality simulation that we seem to be living in which you die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with a breath? If you would, please, I invite you to hold this controller properly with me in this simulation. How do we hold this controller properly? By switching our awareness of people from being a visual eye awareness to, I challenge you to pretend with me. Here's how we hold the controller properly. I invite you to pretend with me that there's a candle in front of your lips, and in front of every human being's lips, they're doing the same thing. I invite you to pretend that in every human being's mind, they're pretending that there's a candle in front of their lips, including you, that you're trying to not put out. It's just flickering there. And you're not thinking about exhaling or inhaling. It's just flickering there in front of your lips. This candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out, that every person in life has, that they're trying to not put out. And as we are holding this controller properly, I challenge you to pretend or to bring into your awareness that the back 1/3 of your tongue is vertical, up and down, up and down, up and down. Say it with me. Up and down, up and down. The back 1/3 of your tongue, as in closer to your swallowing muscles, away from the tip of your tongue. The back 1/3 of your tongue is vertical, up and down, up and down. How does that feel for you? As we are letting this candle flicker in front of our lips. And we're remembering that the tip of our tongues want to be anchored to the bottom of the front teeth. Good morning, everybody. It is Freedom Friday. Free your voice. We will be freeing our voice today on October 15th, 2021. We will be freeing our voice today. How can we free our voice? Is our voice important for us? Might our voice be generated by some muscles that are involved in the body? And is it not proper to stretch and activate every muscle in your body every now and again? Is it not a healthy routine? As we talk a little bit about health today on this Freedom Friday. We'll be back with some body magic tricks no matter where you are, whether you're walking outside or you're inside right now. We will be back with some body magic tricks to make us feel so good from the inside out, better than your morning would feel without, and freeing our voice right after this break. But only if you remember that the back 1/3 of the tongue is vertical. Are we ready to achieve muscular freedom? Balance. And isn't the voice box a muscle? Isn't our voice created by muscles? Are we ready to achieve muscular freedom today? I challenge you to pretend that there's a candle in front of my lips. It's just flickering there. And I'm trying to not put it out. As both of us are leaving our swallowing muscles alone. Freeing our voice. The voice, is it part of you? In the same way that your muscles can coordinate to lift up the bar when we are doing a bench press. The same way that our muscles can coordinate to open a door, a repeatable motion. The same way that our body has a repeatable motion to drink from a cup. Do we perceive our voice as being a muscle that we repeatedly exercise, repeatedly coordinate? Or do we see our voice as something independent from us, something that we should not treat like a muscle, something that we should not revisit with familiarity, something that we should not exercise? Welcome back. Come through, sit down, or walk around, whatever you are doing. Hang out for a little bit. How art thou? Have you eaten food yet? Have you had a good sleep? Did you have a shower today? How are we in this simulation of ours today? And are you ready to interlace fingers in our awareness, so to speak, by pretending also alongside with me that there is a candle flickering in front of every being's lips that that being is trying to not put out in their mind's eye. And alongside me, I hope you join me in remembering that the tips of every being's tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. And how does that feel for you if we are noticing possibly how forward of the body that feels? Have we been able to acknowledge the weight-bearing portion of the spine actually being the front and not the back, but the weight-bearing portion of the spine being the front, not the back? As we remember that the tip of our tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth at the same time. And before we move forward, I invite you to pretend with me that there's a candle in front of every being's lips, and that being is trying to not put out. And they're not thinking about exhaling, they're not thinking about inhaling. They're just trying to not put this candle out. as they remember that the tip of their tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Notice how far the forward of the body that feels for you as we leave our swallowing muscles alone always. Free your voice. Free your voice. I invite you to free your voice. Say it with me. Even if it's just in your head, even if it's just thinking about it, sometimes the awareness, sometimes the direction, and sometimes the attention of your body is okay to be more of a question. Does the tip of my tongue feel as though it wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth? And do we notice any more willingness to act or to speak? Should we acknowledge how far forward of the body it may or may not feel? To remember that the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Lest we forget, how willing does the voice feel to participate when we remember that there is a candle just flickering in front of every human being's lips, in which they're trying to not put out? During song, during movement, during work, how willing does the voice feel to participate in any act of discovery, whether that be discovery of an object in the outside world that is being viewed with the eyes? Or how willing does the voice feel to participate with any discovery, with any emotion coming from the inside, or any thought? It seems of large importance to stretch every muscle in our body. Is the voice part of that? We challenge ourselves with Olympics and tests of dexterity and coordination in every muscle. And yet, our voice, seemingly detached from our expectation of exercise. Our voice is needed to be authentic, to feel in the moment. What is what is an automatopoeia? What is a reaction to a discovery? How necessary is it for your voice to be free? How does one free the voice? How necessary is it for the voice to be free in order to for one to feel authentic? Is there a large connection between a person's breathing and their voice, or their ability to regulate their voice? As we're holding this controller properly, I invite and challenge you to pretend that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out, along with every being, and that the tip of your tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. No matter where you are, no matter whether you are here or in a car, no matter whether you are near or very far, whether you are in the States or all the way in somewhere like Japan, we hope you are doing so well out there. We hope you are doing so well out there, always remembering that the back 1/3 of the tongue is vertical, up and down, up and down, up and down. Let's free that voice of yours today. How do we free that voice of yours today? What is a free voice? How integrated do we believe the voice to be part of the human bodily experience? We have PE classes in elementary and mandatory PE classes all the way up until high school in the West. How important is the voice? How valuable would it be to mandate vocal training, vocal exploration? Why? How important is one's interaction with the world in order to get their needs met by the world? In order to vocalize, or in order to get the message across to the world that their needs want to be met, how must one interact with the world? One might say authentically, truthfully. In order to translate properly, in order for the message to be received properly, so that the proper need is even being met, the communication must be on point, so to speak. One must interact with the world authentically so that the proper needs can be met, so that the world can know even what needs must be met. Now, with 75% of our language being nonverbal, as in body language, as in tone, timing, as in 75% of our communication is not the specific words themselves, but how the words are being spoken, when the words are being spoken, context, body language. And so for one to express one's needs to the world with messages via their body, and as we know, the muscles that create the voice are muscles which are part of the body, which contribute to the body's posture, contribute to the body's alignment, whether or not they are being engaged at the specific time. The awareness of the muscles that create the voice box, the awareness of them being muscles and integrated into the part of the body, emulate and work together for the body to move. As the muscles in front of here, in front of the throat, are highly related to the voice box, but also are muscles in and of themselves, required to be integrated for the entire body to balance properly. The body must know itself to balance itself as best as possible. So if we notice how far forward of the tongue of the body it feels for the tip of the tongue to want to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth, and right here. As the weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front, and we're trying to align the body as best as possible at all times, we might become aware of the fact that the muscles underneath the chin in front of the neck, we might become aware that though related to speaking and breathing, we might become aware of the fact that they are still indeed muscles, part of this entire muscular machine that we are. Meaning in order to balance properly, one must integrate into the entire system, as you can only best balance for something that is most known. So should we want to feel better? Should we want to feel better and align the body better to feel so free, as we know that that freedom is achieved through muscular balance, and our muscular freedom is achieved through skeletal balance? As we are trying to get that alignment to feel so good in the body, to feel so good, does the voice not sometimes must be involved? As the voice box is so forward of the body, and the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Does the voice sometimes must be involved for the body to feel better and more aligned? Might that be why we scream? Might that be why we vocalize our crying? Might that be why babies vocalize their upset whining? Might that be why we express vocally our frustration? Might that be why we sing our passion, our pain? Might the vocal box, might the muscles involved in the voice be more involved with pain relief and skeletal alignment than we might be led on to believe? We'll be right back after this very short break to talk more about freeing that voice of yours. We'll be right back. Here, bag one. Problem is that we do not have 5 senses, we have 6. The 6th being kinesthesia, our sense of self, our sense of shape, size, and function of our own body, our relationship with our own body, our sense of balance with our own body. The fact that you can feel your left leg from your right leg, or your left arm from your right arm, or distinguish your separate fingers from one another, but at the same time can collapse all of that awareness and become whole with the one body and make the body feel as though it is one entire object. Are you feeling the front of your shins? Welcome to the second half of the show today. It is October 15th, 2021, Friday, Freedom Friday. Can you believe we're already halfway through October? In 2021, here we go. Can you believe it? Amazing. So fast, so clean. It is 5:58 a.m. wherever you are, whenever thou art, but right here it is 5:58 a.m. Good morning. Stretching our self-awareness like a muscle. Feeling better all the time objectively. And how is that even possible? With the help of your only no-nonsense podcast, of course, brought to you through the Best Feeling Network. And the help of your own body from the inside out, as we are just using our body and moving our self-awareness around, not really doing much, but some body magic tricks to feel so good from the inside out. In this simulation of ours in which we die every 5 minutes, but that timer is reset with every breath you take. I invite you to hold this controller properly with all of us today, alongside of us. By pretending that there is a candle in front of every human being's lips, just flickering there. And in every person's minds, they are trying to not put this candle out that is right in front of their lips. It's just flickering there. In their perception, there is a candle just flickering in front of their lips that they're trying to not put out. And they're not thinking about exhaling or inhaling, as we are all holding this controller properly, all perceiving the same thing. Imagine all of us perceiving everyone with a candle in front of everyone's lips that we're trying to not put out. And we're not even looking at each other anymore. Our eyes become the secondary source of information as they blur over, gaze over, and we can use them to focus. But how does it feel for you to pretend there's a candle in front of every person's lips that they're trying to not put out? And don't just take my word for it. I hope you are joining me in allowing all of these words to enter in one ear, and then out the other today. As we are attaching ourselves to the meanings and not necessarily just the objects of what is being said, right? In that amazing window to this godlike experience of your mind you are. Into this amazing window to this godlike experience that you are. Always attaching and discovering and establishing meaning. So I hope you join me in remembering to allow all of these words to enter one ear and then out the other. And how art thou today? I want to say thank you for allowing us the space into the symphony that is your life and allowing us to blend into your life like this. Never reaching out beyond what is beyond us, but always just allowing these words to go in one ear and out the other as we just blend into the symphony around you. Are those some cars outside? Are you driving? Did you just honk? Did someone honk at you? Is it raining outside? Or is it nice and sunny? How are we gonna free our voice today? By holding the controller improperly, or by remembering that there's a candle in front of everybody's lips that we're trying to not put out? And why is it important to put a candle in front of the other people's lips that we are speaking to? Because if we are speaking with our voice, as we are always living more deterministically in our lives, should we want to free our voice, well, what do we use our voice towards? Towards an audience. And so to this audience, do we not want to be unafraid of such audience in order to free our authentic selves? In order for our voice to free its authentic self in whatever expression that might be, whether it be voice, tone, or choice of words? And so if we are trying to free our voice, not just the specific language that is being used, but also the tone, the authentic volume, the authentic timing, the authentic sounds, the authentic overtones, the authentic accents that we are actually thinking about in our head or feeling in our hearts. If we are to free our voice that is in our hearts, that we actually want to express, to feel authentic, to feel grounded, to feel integrated in ourselves in that moment, Shouldn't we be unafraid of whomever we are speaking to? And so should we not have a oneness with them? Should they not breathe like us? Should they not have a spirit that wants to breathe better just like ours? Should they not also have a candle in front of their lips that they're also trying to not put out just like you? Shouldn't the tip of their tongues be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth, or shouldn't they want to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth at all times, just like yours does? And shouldn't the back 1/3 of your tongue be vertical up and down, just like theirs is? Shouldn't the back 1/3 of their tongue be vertical up and down, just like yours is? And so if we are to free our voice today, if we are to free our authentic voices today and feel so good and align our bodies, as we are discovering that the voice box muscles are more involved with aligning the body than we thought, as they are so forward of the body, right? The voice box muscles being so forward of the throat, as the breathing pipe is in front of the swallowing pipe. And as we know, the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth if we want to hold our controller properly in this simulation of ours. And notice how far forward of the body that feels. Right? And if we're leaving our swallowing muscles alone, as we remember that the tip of our tongues want to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth, we might notice how forward of the body that feels. And so if we remember that the weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front, say it with me as we free our voice today on Freedom Friday. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. I challenge you to say it with me out loud. Not even in your head this time. But if you have to, that's okay. There's always room for forgiveness. Always. But I challenge you to say it with me. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. And so if we notice how forward of the body that feels, along with the tip of the tongue wanting to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth, and observe our sense of self, how might that feel? And so if we are trying to free our authentic voices, free our authentic selves, speak our authentic truths so that we feel our authentic selves, because is there anything less satisfying than feeling like a life in which you do not feel authentic? What was the time you spent doing for? What was the time spent alive for? Should we not feel integrated or authentic with the moment? Should we not feel like we are being ourselves? Who are we being then? Who are we making strides for? Should we not feel like being our authentic selves? Should we fragment and compartmentalize ourselves by thinking of saying one thing and actually saying another thing? Or believing we want to sound a certain way and actually sounding another way due to fear of how we would sound, insecurity, or lack of practice, or whatever it might be that is preventing us from sounding like the way that we want it to sound? How many times do we speak out a day? How many times would we feel authentic when we are not speaking with our authentic bodies? When do you not speak with your authentic body? Well, when you have any kind of fear or any kind of reason that might be threatening to not be your authentic self. What might be a way to make sure nothing causes this fear to prevent you from being authentic by seeing everything as one as you? That might be one way. And so when we're speaking with the cashier, talking to ourselves in the mirror sometimes, or when we're talking to a friend, or when we're talking to a lover, I challenge you on Freedom Friday today, and most days on Padawan, to free your voice today. To free your voice today. How can we have a voice that is free? A voice that is unafraid. How can a voice be unafraid? By having a oneness with its audience. How do we have a oneness with our audience? Well, doesn't our audience want the front of their shins to be in their awareness? Doesn't our audience feel more aligned by remembering that the weight-bearing portion of the spine is their front? And most forward of the face, doesn't our audience have a candle in front of their lips that they're trying to not put out as it just flickers there? There's a candle in front of my lips that is just flickering there. And we're not trying to put it out. We're not thinking about inhaling. We're not thinking about exhaling, as there's a candle in front of the lips that we're trying to not put out. And so we might find ourselves not speaking when we want to speak. Holding back when we know we want to speak. Having a relationship with ourselves, either improving or degrading, depending on how many oftentimes we are able to speak authentically in a way that feels solid to us. We each have a relationship with ourselves, knowing when we get embarrassed, or knowing when we feel comfortable to speak, or knowing when we feel uncomfortable to speak. And to free your voice today, I wonder how it might feel to see if you can find your voice leak out a little more and see if that helps balance oneself. I wonder how one might feel by pretending there's a candle in front of the lips that they're trying to not put out. I wonder how one might feel by remembering that the weight of the body is not transferred into the seat through this sharp tailbone thing, but rather is divided into these rainbow arches, equally into your sit bones, and that your legs do not sit, and that you do not sit on your legs. I wonder if our voices started off free. Do you ever wonder if our voices started off free and are by nature always free to express? And perhaps it might just be us and our own fears causing us to develop patterns for survival when we were small baby child things that were creating rules about the world in our heads when we were much weaker and much more vulnerable. Was our voice at one point free? And does our voice have more to do with our body's ability to feel good and balanced than we once thought? As we are screaming in music, as we are singing in music, as we are screaming into pillows, as we vocalize our confusion, as we vocalize our emphasis, as we vocalize our surprise. Have we separated the voice too much from the body in thinking that the voice itself is also not a part of the body, which must be exercised and free to move just like every other part of the body? And so did we make a mistake with all of the schoolings of being like, everybody be quiet at a too young of an age? Does that perhaps stifle more coordination and development in the human body and the human experience than we once gave it credit for? Might there be a reason why people with such control over vocalizing seem to gather so much attention? Perhaps there is a lesser commonly known muscle group more involved with balance than we like to admit, namely the voice muscles, which we are freeing today. Which we are freeing today by breaking down misconceptions brought onto us every day, every weekday morning with Pal Go On. Was our voice naturally free? Is our voice naturally free? And might the solution be to simply move stuff out of the way and organize things out of the way properly to allow that voice, that authentic version of yourself, leak out? How do we get it to leak out? Let's hold forward as we're remembering that the vocal and breathing passages are in front of the swallowing pipes and not behind. So let's leak and squeeze forward as we are remembering that the weight-bearing portion of the spine is actually the front as we experience life, as we might experience discovery and awe and confusion and sadness and anger. Might our voice leak out? Might our voice be free when we remember that the tips of our tongue want to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth when experiencing all of these parts of the human condition? When experiencing all of these different human emotions, might the voice leak out? And might it feel so good as the voice leaks out as we remember that the weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front, not the back? Meaning that you gain more balance when you move towards the front, not the back. Meaning you gain more freedom in life when you move to the front, not the back. Meaning your voice might leak out and make your whole body feel so free from the front. If you remember that there's a candle in front of everybody's lips that we're trying to not put out. And it's just flickering there. You're not thinking about exhaling, you're not thinking about inhaling, it's just flickering there. And you're just allowing it to rest. Might your voice leak out? Might your body balance and reward you for it? I'll be right back after this short break, but only if you remember that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. I'll be right back after this short break on Pack One. Are we ready to achieve muscular freedom through balance? How do we exercise our voice? Through muscular freedom. Achieve through balance. How do we balance? As we're holding this controller properly together, I challenge you to listen to your favorite song today. I challenge you to listen along with any song today that you feel like singing along today. As we're reaching the height of the show here on Pal Go On, we are not just going to leave you with some scary words, but perhaps actually some actionable body magic tricks. I invite you today to listen to some songs that you enjoy, or maybe just some songs that are around you. Anything you want to participate in. Start singing along. Start singing along. Even have me along with you right now. Pause this video if you need to. And put it on, press play when we're about to go into that song. Leave me in the background, let me be annoying. As you were singing, as you were singing, as you were screaming, I challenge you to bring into your awareness the candle in front of not just your lips, but everybody's lips that they're trying to not put out. As you're singing, continue that singing. It feels so good, right? Free your voice, baby. Keep going, keep going. You're doing great. Keep going. Now remember that the tips of everybody's tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Keep singing. Now remember that the back 1/3 of your tongue is vertical. Up and down, up and down, up and down, vertical, up and down. And keep singing. Keep singing. Remember that there's a candle in front of your lips that they're trying to not put out. And remember, in front of everybody's lips that they're trying to not put out. Good, you're doing great. Now, bring it to your awareness again. As we just move our awareness around, just rotate it around. It's okay if it's not all at once, just rotate it around. Remember that the tip of your tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Good, good. You're doing awesome. Keep singing. Keep screaming. And remember now that the back 1/3 of your tongue is vertical. Up and down, up and down, up and down. And notice if there are any changes in your body. How does that feel for you? Keep going. You're doing fantastic. I'm proud of you. One more time. Never forget that there's a candle in front of everybody's lips that they're each trying to not put out while you are singing. They're each like you. Your audience is just like you. You're doing great. Remember that there's a candle in front of your lips and in front of everybody's lips that they're trying to not put out. That was a great note. Woo! Keep going. Yeah! Remember that the back 1/3 of your tongue is vertical. Keep going. Up and down, up and down. There you go. Get ready for that. Keep going, keep going. Get ready for that last note. Even if you're rapping right now. Are you rapping? Wow. Remember that the tip of your tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front. How are we achieving freedom? If you're all done with singing. Well, maybe there were only misconceptions that were holding us down. Thinking that the tongue had no way it wanted to be. Thinking that there was no candle in front of your lips, but thinking that there was no way to align the body similarly as everybody. As we practice aligning our bodies closer to its alignment and not towards what we visually see on the outside world, but rather its design and how it's supposed to be felt in relation to itself on the inside, might we find more ability to free our voice, and might we feel more authentic with ourselves as we begin to reflect to the outside world closer to what our body is feeling on the inside. Isn't our voice so important to emit to the outside world? Isn't our voice so important for us to show to the world? Isn't our voice so important? To properly describe our human experience to others. To properly balance for the body. Herbie, what if I can't speak? Aren't those still muscles in the body? Don't they still must be activated by remembering that the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth? Must they also not be tickled, whether they can speak or not? Must those muscles also not be tickled in order to feel so good in muscular balance or muscular freedom through balance? In order to balance the body as best as possible, even if you cannot use your voice box, is it not important to integrate those muscles in order for the body to balance so that we can have as much muscular freedom everywhere else, as we are all this one big body bag in relation to ourselves, right? Pulling on ourselves from the inside. And so is there not a candle in front of everybody's lips that we're each trying to not put out? And how does that feel for you? While you sing, while you speak. Do we notice any changes in the way the body gives itself permission to balance? Should we remember that the tip of our tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth? And do we kind of feel any kind of free sensation by remembering that the back 1/3 of our tongues wants it to be vertical when we are singing, when we are expressing, when we are vocalizing? An idea struck me the other day that possibly maybe the reason why some people, quote unquote, can get away with saying some things and other people can not get away with saying the same thing, at least in social conversations, right? Might it be what we know people's attention is on? Might it be that we become attuned to what is aware on, of what they're aware on when they're vocalizing? Whether that be the reason is to impress or to change the minds of others or simply to feel the body. Should our voice leak out of our body on its own? Should we just be balancing and our voice leaks out as a result? Is the meaning of our sound not simply the experience of a human being experiencing a moment rather than trying to convince other human beings around them? Might that be an authentic experience exciting to everyone's ears and eyes? Might that be a godly experience as one has one's relationship with itself improve as our voice leaks out through finding balance? And how do we find this balance? Maybe by correcting imbalances. Might there be an imbalance by forgetting that the tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth? And how does it feel for you to remember that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out? And if you would say it with me, the weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. Weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. The weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. And as we are using some body magic tricks, you might feel the front of your shins and put the front of your shins into your awareness. Remember that the tips of your tongue wants to be anchored to the back of the bottom front teeth. Don't ever put that candle out in front of everybody's lips. It's just flickering there. Notice how far forward of the body all of this feels. And then remember that you do not sit on your legs, but rather on these rainbow arches. And not your tailbone, but these rainbow arches after being delivered from the weight-bearing portion of the spine, which is the front. All of your weight is delivered into those rainbow arches. There's a flickering candle in front of everyone's lips as we're trying to get everyone's voice to leak out in front of you. And remember that you do not sit on your legs. I want you to feel so free today on Freedom Friday. I want your voice to feel free. I want you to have that vocal freedom. As that vocality might just be a part of you itself. Might that feel so good living each day as yourself more and more and more and more. I want you to feel so free today. I want you to free that voice. I want that voice to leak out of you. Notice how far forward of the body all of this feels. Maybe we weren't so quiet after all, but maybe we were always blocking ourselves by feeling everything on the backs when everything wants to be on the fronts. Maybe we opened that door up. Maybe we weren't quiet after all, but we kept the door shut. As we are remembering that, now we remember that the swallow pipe is behind the windpipe. Remember, guys, the windpipe's in front of the swallow pipe. Notice how far forward of the body all this feels. Are you feeling the front of your shins? Weight-bearing portion of the spine is the front. Tip of the tongue wants to be anchored to the bottom front teeth. And the back 1/3 of the tongue is vertical. I challenge you to rotate these into your awareness. I challenge you to hold this controller properly throughout your life today. I challenge you as you encounter your loved ones, yourself in the reflection, your favorite music. I challenge you to pretend that there's a candle in front of your lips that you're trying to not put out. Remember how far forward all of this feels and have that voice of yours leak on out. Might that help you feel so good? Might that make us feel so good and so balanced from the inside out? Isn't there a reason why people express vocally? Might that help us be balancing? Might that actually be helping us feel better physically? Might that help us achieve freedom, muscular freedom through balance? Let's free our voice. Let's let that voice leak out and follow that path. We'll see you on Mover Monday, guys. Hey guys for coming through. It is the end of the show. I want to thank you guys so much for coming through. Try that little regimen that we had earlier, and report back on Monday and let me know how it goes. Free up that voice and let me know how it goes. Let me know how it goes, girlfriend. If anything, no matter what, we will always be here, Padawan, forever. More updates coming soon. How we are shifting and metamorphosizing like some animorphs. Pow pow. How do we exercise our voice? With the help of your only no-nonsense podcast, of course. Brought to you through the Best Feeling Network and the help of your own body from the inside out. Just moving your self-awareness around. Let's free up that voice. Sing from the candle, sing to their candle. We are all one, right? Death fearing nothing. Life loving always. We'll see you guys on Mover Monday. Feeling so good from the inside out. Better than your morning would feel without. My name is Herbie. Good morning, everyone. We'll see you next week. This has been Freedom. This has been Padawan. This has been a Freedom Friday. Free your voice! Ooh, thank you guys. Ooh,
wherever you are, whenever thou art, wherever you come from the heart.
Always thank you for all of the engagement, all of the love, all of the support. It's never taken lightly. Never upon deaf ears. Thank you always so much for all the support and all the shares and all the questions and all the wonderings and all the freaking WTFs and all of the shares out of WTFs. Have a great one, guys. Big love. Tag them off forever.